In the midst of a pandemic, the gaming industry saw the release of some truly incredible titles. It also saw the release of the most highly anticipated game in history. And yeah, we're going to take a look at how no patch, not even the epic patch 1.2, can fix what's wrong with Cyberpunk 2077. So, Street Samurai, let's get into it. Hey there, it's T-Monster or Twitch Dad, depending on how you know me online, and this particular deep dive is going to lean very heavily into my background as a writer. And when it comes to video games, I have a lot to say as a writer. So video games and I have this very complicated love, hate, codependent, toxic, abusive, you complete me kind of relationship. As I said, it's complicated. In fact, it's so complicated, I did not want to open up this aspect of my life again. I was an OG, spending way too much time and money in video arcades, and then I'd go home and play the shit out of Zaxxon and Qbert on my ColecoVision console. Destiny served as my gateway not just back to the video gaming community, but also into streaming media. And since Destiny, I have played some incredible games, and 2020 was a fantastic year. Just look at some of the titles released during quarantine. The Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Phasmophobia, Destiny 2 Beyond Light. And these are just the games I played. Add into this games like Hades, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, Genshin Impact, Doom Eternal, and the celebrated remake of Final Fantasy VII, and you are looking at a stellar year when both the entertainment and sports industries were in damage control. Just in case you're new to video games or you have games on a to-play later list, there are going to be some major reveals in this video for Cyberpunk 2077 and The Last of Us Part 2. If you're trying to avoid spoilers, now would be a good time to stop the video and check out some other content in my playlist. There was another title that many thought would dominate 2020. It was to be a highly anticipated, groundbreaking, epic adventure in video games. From the studio that had brought us the Witcher series, CD Projekt Red was finally going to deliver Cyberpunk 2077, a title that promised us an unforgettable experience. And they delivered. Kinda.
Fuck.
To understand the scope of Cyberpunk 2077, we have to once again travel that road that got us here. So let's take a look at that first teaser trailer released in 2012.
Come touch me like I'm an ordinary man. Have a look in my eyes. Underneath my skin there is a violence. It's got a gun in its hands. Ready to make sense of anyone, anything, anyone, anything, anyone, anything, anyone, anything, anyone, anything. Black holes living in the side of your face. Razor wire spinning around your
serious injuries. Police have a suspect anyway.
Personal responsibility, personal responsibility, personal responsibility, personal responsibility.
It would be impossible not to lose your mind over what could be best described as an intersection between The Matrix, Blade Runner, and Dread, and thus began the hype over this beloved tabletop RPG that was transitioning into the video game market. And with all the excitement generated over that teaser, CD Projekt Red was already hard at work on another property, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The original idea was to work on both properties simultaneously, assuring a solid sequel for their popular Witcher series and then riding that momentum into Cyberpunk 2077. But, as plans go in development, more resources were needed for Witcher 3 to make a May 2015 release date. And when the game did release, it suffered from frequent crashes, dodgy frame rates, objects arbitrarily clipped through each other, and game mechanics that demanded and did receive a complete overhaul.
That's pretty easy.
Look at that.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to? Do you want to continue your training?
I'm fine. Got this.
Fuck.
It would not be until 2016, 4 years later, that Cyberpunk 2077 suddenly resurfaces in a blitz of news interviews from studio executives. Projekt Red CEO Marcin Rwinski stated in an interview with GamesIndustry.biz that The Witcher 3 success allocated more resources for Cyberpunk 2077, describing it as more ambitious on every single front, both in its development and on the marketing side. The Witcher finished with 80 people, The Witcher 3 finished with 250, so Cyberpunk will probably be even more. Don't think about scale in terms of us doing 20 projects. No. We'll focus on certain things. We don't want to be a 10-project studio. If we look at our role models, what Rockstar Games is doing is amazing. It's not like we have to ship a game where we may not hit our financial goals. It's, here's Grand Theft Auto 5, and by the way, it's the best game ever made. But we still have to get there. We have to prove it. The Witcher 3 is a good example, but we have to keep on delivering. Then we jump to 2018, where CD Projekt Red released an hour of gameplay at the conclusion of E3. The footage was nothing short of jaw-dropping, and this really ramped up the hype and expectation over the game. Cyberpunk 2077 described itself as an immersive RPG, allowing for a fully customizable character and offering unlimited possibilities within their revolutionary open-world game. Seriously, the anticipation could not get any crazier than this until the E3 event of 2019.
Wake the f*** up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
Please welcome Keanu Reeves.
How's it going? Hello, Los Angeles. E3.
With Keanu Reeves promoting Cyberpunk 2077, this was a point of no return for both the title and for Projekt Red. And the hype now had a release date, April 16th, 2020. Gamers of all backgrounds, of all platforms, were ready. Then came its first delay, September 17th. Reasons cited, a wish to perfect the game for release. Cool. I not only appreciate that, I totally respect it. Then came its second delay, November 19th. Reasons cited, the COVID-19 pandemic.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me!
Yeah, while I respected the first delay, the second one is a little tougher to get behind on account of one developer completely reinventing the approach to accessibility for gamers everywhere, a second developer releasing a game way out of their comfort zone, and a third developer who did delay their DLC to make sure everything was right, and amidst a few hiccups, returned to form with some amazing content. With its third delay, pressures and plummeting stock in the company pushed the studio hard for their December release. But as promised, the game premiered on December 10th, 2020. Within its first week, the story started coming in. Cyberpunk 2077 was an experience unparalleled. for PC gamers. For console gamers, it was an entirely different experience. So different that Sony pulled the game from their PlayStation Store, and at the time of this recording, it's still not there.
Fuck.
For myself, I did experience the random T-posing and odd group crouching, but did the game run on my PS4 Pro? Yeah, it did. Did it look dramatically different? Nothing that made the game unplayable. But where it completely failed me is what Project Red, in their own words on Twitter in 2017, described Cyberpunk 2077 as a huge single-player open-world story-driven RPG. No hidden catch, you get what you pay for. No bullshit, just honest gaming, like with Wild Hunt. Story-driven. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about that. When Project Red first announced the title nearly a decade ago, it promised a gripping, free-flowing saga that would immerse players in a dystopian future of digital nomads, corporate spies, and augmented hackers, set in a gritty, dark, and expansive world ready to explore. So this is what we thought we were going to get. And here's what we got. When creating your V, because let's be honest, you're creating a variation of V and not really your own character, you choose a life path. Here are the three options to choose from. Nomad. Roaming the Badlands, looting the scrapyards, raiding fuel depots. Life on the road wasn't easy, but growing up in a nomad clan has its perks. Honesty, integrity, and a love of freedom. Qualities that few in Night City possess, and no amount of money can buy. Street Kid. They say if you want to understand the streets, you gotta live them. Gangs, fixers, dolls, small-time pushers, you were raised by them all. Down here, the law of the jungle dictates the weak serve the strong. The only law in Night City you have yet to break. Corpo. Few leave the corporate world with their lives. Few are still with their souls intact. You've been there. You've bent the rules, exploited secrets, and weaponized information. There's no such thing as a fair game. Only winners and losers. Sounds cool, right? And I'll admit, I was ready to go. The game even promises you a unique experience with different event and dialogue options for each life path. So I went on ahead, created my own Corpo V, and set off for Night City. I was pumped about my choice. And I was also in for a rude awakening, because according to Polygon, in a lot of games, the choices you make here determines your class and has long-lasting effects on your playstyle. That is not what's happening here. The life path you choose doesn't have any effect on your stats or abilities. All you're choosing is your version of V's personality and, for the lack of a better word, upbringing. Life path will determine your introductory mission to the game. Each path has a different mission, but they all result in the same ending. Befriending Jackie. After that, the only place you'll really see your life path is in conversations. You'll have life path related dialogue occasionally that results in additional details or insight. So with Corpo V, the elaborate setup that lays out the background and the reputation you clearly have built at Arasaka Corp, the debrief you attend where you are assigned a target for takedown on account of the problems she is causing for your executives, and the unexpected, unexplained burn you find yourself subjected to. Oh my god, it's a Cyberpunk burn notice! Holy shit, it's Cyberpunk burn notice! I'm all in! Yeah, you don't return to that. At any time. You do, however, go through a montage of what happened to you after getting burned, and then jump forward 6 months to where you are alongside your pal Jackie, getting ready for a new gig. Oh, that's right. You're supposed to befriend Jackie in the game. It turns out, when you choose Corpo V, you and Jackie are already best buds. In fact, he was hanging out with you in the nightclub the night you got burned. So yeah, if you're wondering about how tough it is to befriend Jackie in Cyberpunk 2077,
it's gonna be super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Jackie then finds you a job that will set you both up for life. You know, the kind of money you saw all the time when you were with Arasaka, but instead of looking into that whole you got burned thing, you'd rather keep it real, yo, living in the lower levels and doing odd jobs for various street types in order to make ends meet, not caring one whit about who stole that executive suite lifestyle from you or even why. Anyway, back to the story. You have to steal some data, referred to only as the relic, from the high-security penthouse of Yorinobu Arasaka, the son of Emperor Saburo Arasaka, the founder of your former corporation and the most powerful man in the world. You and Jackie infiltrate the penthouse and manage to steal the relic, but what should have been a smooth exit is borked on account of Yorinobu returning to the penthouse. You and Jackie hide behind a TV screen, and you see Yorinobu enter, joined later by his father, Saburo. Tensions get out of control, and both you and Jackie witness Yorinobu killing Saburo. What follows next is a mad dash escape from the penthouse and luxury hotel, Jackie plugging into the relic in order to preserve the data, a gunfight that ends with Jackie's death, and you plugging into the relic in order to preserve it. We then get to a safe house, where we are double-crossed once again.
Fuck.
And here, after all that, we meet Keanu Reeves' Johnny Silverhand. He's a rocker, he's a philosopher, and he's a well-equipped corporate terrorist. Guess his vinyl sales are doing really well. From Johnny's point of view, you take the stage in a farewell concert, then hop on a military-grade helicopter and raid the Arasaka headquarters. The raid, however, goes south, and Johnny is captured by Saburo Arasaka, who digitizes Johnny as punishment for his sins. If the payoff is worth it, I will take back everything I said. We then hop back to your V, who, got shot by the broker who had hired you in the first place. You are rescued by Goro Takemura, the former bodyguard of deceased Emperor Saburo Arasaka. After a wild chase outside of Night City, you and Takemura find your way back to your favorite Ripper Doc, Victor, who manages to piece you both back together. This is where you find out, however, that you are on borrowed time, as the relic is, in fact, the digitized Johnny Silverhand. The relic regards your psyche as a virus and is beginning to eradicate it. You have a few weeks, if you're lucky, before your psyche is completely replaced by Silverhand, who is now haunting you at random points throughout the game. And by the way, at no time do you tell Takemura that you were witness to his boss's death at the hands of his own son. Yeah, it might seem like an important detail to share, but it is never given as an option, even in numerous conversations you have with this man.
Fuck.
What follows next is a series of random side quests that range from collecting wayward AI limousines to pickup jobs for the local police to random street brokers asking you to do a few quick jobs for them in order to make a few bucks. Yeah, that's another problem with Cyberpunk 2077's story. You can't progress in the main story mission unless you have sufficient funds for necessary body mods, and you can't get money for the mods unless you do the side quests, which, as Silverhand is eradicating your own personality, feels like a distraction. At one point, I paused gameplay and summed it up this way. Playing Cyberpunk 2077 is like sitting down in an RPG, let's say D&D. But they go, okay, we're not going to show you the player's manual, we're not going to show you the monster's manual, and we're not going to show you the basic rule book. Now play. During that stream, I found out another science fiction author agreed with me. You might have heard of this guy, William Gibson. Yeah, that William Gibson, one of the founding fathers of Cyberpunk. But probably the best summation of storytelling in Cyberpunk 2077 comes from video gaming legend Gamer Grandma, who said this at the end of her own experience.
Hey V, how's the Earth looking from way up there? She as pretty as they say? Or is that just another lie? Listen, don't forget, your implants were made for Earth gravity. Could start acting up in orbit. What I'm trying to say is, don't ignore any error warnings, okay? And when you're back, if you come back, I'll do a full checkup. Maybe even give you a little discount. Take care, V.
Hey, V. I was just wondering how you've been. Haven't heard from you in a while. Still living large in Night City? I don't know. All I think about is dropping everything and leaving. Yet, here I am, still.
I know it's April, inching into May, and people have spoken their piece about Cyberpunk 2077. But with the release of patch 1.2, yep, still scrolling.
Fuck.
I find myself returning to Night City from a distance, wondering why not one of the 10 writers on Cyberpunk 2077's narrative team didn't slam on the brakes and ask themselves, what the hell are we doing? Even in classic RPGs like Cyberpunk Red, Traveler, or even Dungeons & Dragons, at their heart are stories that players want to take part in. And considering some of the best modules were written by writers like Ed Greenwood and Tracy and Laura Hickman, there is plenty of room for good storytelling and good writing in gaming, even if that demand isn't at the forefront. The Last of Us Part 2 from Naughty Dog remains as a shining example of exactly how good a video game can be. In its accessibility options, it is the platinum standard of what games should offer players. In its fight mechanics, a few critics grumble over the hitboxes for some of the weapons, but overall, it's a fluid, intuitive approach to combat. But The Last of Us Part 2 stands as a triumph in its unexpected, unconventional storytelling, something that many in the gaming community not only pushed back against, but fostered resentment towards the game. That reaction only cements the fact that Naughty Dog did something right. In the game, you play primarily from Elle's perspective. This is not so different from the original Last of Us, where you play as Joel, but then switch to Ellie for a portion of the gameplay. In this sequel, we spend the first few acts of the game with Elle, set to avenge Joel, who is brutally murdered by someone you only know as Abby. Your revenge quest hits a pivotal moment when you finally stand toe-to-toe with Abby, and this is when Naughty Dog switches perspectives. You then play from the perspective of Abby, and it winds up being a good portion of the game. While critics were upset by the time spent from Abby's point of view, and others felt somewhat manipulated by having to contend with Abby's own motivations and character development, yo, newsflash, you are being manipulated. It's what we do as writers. Good storytelling is supposed to make you feel something, and the more conflicted you are about those feelings, the happier we are as writers. What? You were expecting the world to be all white and black hats? Oh no. The world is full of more than just 50 Shades of Grey, and Naughty Dog took that idea and ran with it. And to that I say, well done, Neil Druckmann, Anthony Newman, and Kurt Margano. Gamers were not ready to feel sympathy for the devil, and you all pulled it off masterfully. Yes, there is room for quality storytelling in video games. And along with The Last of Us, there are other games that focus on the story being told, while still offering engaging combat systems, challenging encounters, and unforgettable adrenaline kicks. Even Bungie, who has received criticism for weak storytelling in past iterations of Destiny, have ramped up their efforts with Beyond Light, their most recent season, Season of the Chosen, offering some truly compelling content. Cyberpunk 2077 did promise a lot in its decade of hype, and stories are still emerging on how poorly handled was what should have been a watershed moment in gaming. The majority of opinions and reviews have been focusing on the glitches found during gameplay, and yeah, those stories are a riot. And the reactions to the amount of fixes in patch 1.2, still scrolling, are good for a laugh as well. I would argue, though, that the core problems of Cyberpunk 2077 have nothing to do with its stability on consoles. I do consider myself a gamer, but I'm a writer first, and Cyberpunk was flawed from the start on account of its shoddy storytelling. But if the words of a steampunk author and a cyberpunk author are not enough to convince you, then how about the words of a senior writer from Wired magazine? I can't stand this game, but not because it's almost unplayable. It's just poorly written. You didn't need to abuse a bunch of developers to fix that. I can't keep track of the convoluted storyline. I have no idea what actions might help or hurt the eventual outcome. Everything feels like I'm just killing time until Keanu's character, Johnny Silverhand, takes over my head. I also hate Johnny Silverhand. I know I'm supposed to hate him, but you're also supposed to feel drawn to his charisma because, duh, Keanu. But I don't. Good writing matters, even in video games. And sadly, Cyberpunk 2077 will remain no better than mediocre and soulless, even if every glitch is fixed. Still scrolling.
Fuck.
And there you have it. A look at Cyberpunk 2077's biggest glitch, its writing. If you've enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit that like button, and feel free to leave your own thoughts in the comments section below. And if you don't want to miss any of my other deep dives or quick takes on things, go on and subscribe. Make sure your notifications are enabled, and you can catch us next time. Until then, thanks for watching. Enjoy the ride. Is this what the Utes are all digging? Is this what they're doing? Is this what the Utes are doing? The Utes are playing the Cyberpunks, and they're getting the things, and this is how we're doing this. Is this it? Is this it? This is it. All right, I'm gonna shut up now.
Not too deep. There should be auxiliary neurosockets between his lymph nodes.